Welcome to our deep dive. Today, we're going to be talking about manipulation and motivation.
Oh, really?
We're going to be looking at it through the lens of a former CIA officer, Andrew Bustamante.
Very cool.
And this is based on a YouTube clip from the channel The Diary of a CEO clips.
Okay.
And I think our goal today is to kind of unpack some of Bustamante's insights into how understanding these tactics, these manipulations and these motivations can help us navigate the world around us a little bit better, whether we're talking about business, personal relationships, or even just consuming media. How can we become a bit more savvy?
Yeah. It's not about learning to manipulate others necessarily, but it's about becoming aware of how these tactics are used on us every single day.
Right.
In business, in our relationships, even the media that we consume.
Mm-hmm.
It's like getting a peek behind the curtain.
Exactly. And, I think one of the things that struck me when I was listening to Bustamante talk about this was this idea of radical transparency.
Yeah.
He was so open about, like, here are the techniques, here's how they work. And that's kind of empowering in a way.
It is.
He's saying, okay, these things exist, so let's just bring them to light.
And that's the thing. When you understand the mechanics of how things work, you can recognize when they're being used on you.
Right.
You're not going in blind.
Exactly. Now, one of the things that he talked about that I found really interesting was this concept of manipulation and motivation being two sides of the same coin.
Right.
Help me understand that. I mean, are they really that similar?
Well, they both aim to influence behavior.
Okay.
But motivation, it seeks alignment. It's about like finding common ground
Okay.
to reach a shared goal.
Right.
So it's like ideally it's a win-win.
Right.
Manipulation often takes a shortcut though
Okay.
and uses tactics that are, shall we say, less than ethical.
Less than ethical. Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, well imagine a manager
Okay.
who threatens to fire you
Right.
if you don't meet an impossible deadline. That's using fear to get what they want,
Yeah.
even if it burns you out.
Right.
So that's the dark side of influence.
That's not really motivating. That's just...
No, it's not motivating at all.
Yeah. It makes me think about those limited time offer sales tactics.
Yeah,
Is that manipulation too?
it can be.
Okay.
To kind of break it down further, Bustamante talks about what he calls the R.I.C.E framework.
Okay.
Reward, ideology, coercion, and ego.
Mm-hmm.
These are like the levers that people pull to influence behavior.
Okay, I love a good acronym. So let's dive into this R.I.C.E framework.
Okay.
What's reward all about?
It's pretty straightforward. I mean, you're offering something desirable
Right.
in exchange for a specific action.
Okay.
So think bonuses for hitting sales targets or even, praise, recognition for a job well done.
Makes sense. So then ideology, I guess that must be about appealing to people's beliefs.
You got it.
Okay.
And Bustamante argues that ideology is the strongest motivator of all.
Really?
Yeah.
Stronger than a fat paycheck.
People will go to incredible lengths, even risk their lives for their deeply held beliefs. Think about it.
Okay. Yeah.
What drives activists fighting for social justice
Right.
or people devoting their lives to religious missions? It's rarely money. It's their conviction, their ideology.
Yeah, that's a good point. So how does this play out in everyday life?
Oh, it's everywhere.
Like, is someone manipulating me with ideology right now?
Probably.
Okay.
Think about, political campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
They use it all the time. They frame issues to resonate with your values. Even brands do it.
Okay.
Think about companies that build their entire image around sustainability or ethical sourcing.
Right.
They're tapping into your ideology as a consumer.
Wow, I'm starting to see R.I.C.E everywhere now.
It is, yeah.
So if reward is the carrot, then coercion must be the stick.
Exactly. It's about using negative reinforcement,
Okay.
threats, punishments, pressure,
Uh-huh.
to get someone to do what you want.
Right.
But while it might work in the short term, it often backfires.
Yeah. Who wants to live under constant threat? It would just create such a toxic environment.
Exactly. And that's why Bustamante says that coercion is the weakest of the four motivators.
Okay.
It might get compliance, but it won't get you, true engagement or loyalty.
Right. So what about ego? I always think of someone with a big ego as, like, arrogant. Is that what we're talking about
It's
here?
a bit more nuanced than that.
Okay.
Ego, in this context, is about how a person sees themselves.
Okay.
Their desire for recognition, respect, a sense of accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
It's both positive and negative.
So how can understanding ego help us navigate this world of manipulation and motivation?
Well, it helps you recognize that people's actions are often driven by a desire to maintain a positive self-image.
Okay.
So think about someone who volunteers for a charity. They might be driven by altruism,
Yeah.
but also the satisfaction of making a difference and being seen as a good person.
Interesting. So, like, someone could manipulate that by praising someone's generosity
Yeah,
to get them to donate more.
exactly.
Okay.
By appealing to someone's ego, you can potentially nudge their behavior.
This R.I.C.E framework is powerful stuff. You said earlier that ideology is the strongest motivator, though. Why is that?
Because our ideologies are at the core of who we are.
Okay.
They shape our values, worldview, and ultimately, our actions.
Hmm.
When someone truly believes in something, they're far more likely to be swayed by arguments that align with those beliefs.
Right. I mean, it's like those targeted ads that pop up based on your internet history. They're
Yeah.
trying to appeal to what you already believe in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But how do you identify someone's ideology, especially if they're not, you know, openly expressing their beliefs?
Right.
Bustamante points to two key methods: observation and active marketing.
Active marketing. What do you mean by that? It sounds kind of sneaky.
It involves presenting a specific message
Mm-hmm.
and observing how people respond.
Okay.
Those who are drawn to it likely share the ideology that it embodies.
So you're putting something out there.
You're testing the waters.
You're kind of testing to see what resonates.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like imagine a company launches a campaign promoting veganism.
Mm.
The people who are most enthusiastic are probably those who already hold strong beliefs about animal welfare.
Right. Fascinating. I mean, it makes me think about all the ways that companies are trying to tap into my values through their messaging.
And that's the point.
Yeah.
By understanding this, you become a more discerning consumer of information.
Right.
You can start to recognize when someone is trying to manipulate you. But there's another layer to this,
Okay.
which is the distinction between messaging and narrative.
Okay. I'm listening. What's the difference?
Messaging is emotional, while narrative is logical.
Okay.
So think about Nike's Just Do It.
Hmm.
It's short, impactful, evokes, feelings of motivation.
Right.
That's the message. Then they build a narrative around it.
Okay. So the narrative is like the story that backs up that emotional appeal.
You got it. And they work hand in hand often to persuade us. So imagine a company targeting new parents with a message like, give your child the best start in life. I mean, it triggers an emotional response, right?
Oh, yeah. Definitely every parent wants the best for their kid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then they followed up with a narrative about, their product being scientifically formulated to boost brain development or something.
Right.
So the emotional message creates the need,
Mm-hmm.
and the logical narrative provides the solution.
Wow. That's clever. And a little bit scary. It makes me rethink all those ads I see every day.
Well, that's the first step towards awareness.
Right.
But this isn't just about advertising.
Right.
I mean, these techniques are used in all sorts of contexts,
Yeah.
including on a global scale,
Oh, wow.
which we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, I can't wait. We were just talking about how even like everyday messages can be loaded with these manipulation tactics.
Right.
It makes me wonder how this plays out on a bigger stage.
Well, get ready to scale things up because Bustamante also talks about how these techniques, especially this power of ideology,
Right.
are used in geopolitics and national security.
So from selling shoes to like shaping global events.
It's all connected.
Okay, so how does that even work? Do countries like manipulate each other?
Well, think about it. It's still about influencing behavior, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But instead of individuals, you're dealing with entire nations.
Mm-hmm.
And leaders use the same tools,
Okay.
especially narrative and ideology, to shape public perception and achieve their goals.
Can you give me a concrete example?
Yeah.
Because I'm having trouble wrapping my head around that.
Sure, I mean, look at the Cold War.
Okay.
It wasn't just about military might.
Right.
Both the U.S. and the Soviet Union, they were masters at creating narratives that demonized the other side.
Okay.
And they rallied their citizens around this shared ideology
Okay.
of freedom versus communism. So it became this global battle of ideas.
So it's like a giant marketing campaign,
You could see it that way.
but with countries as the brands.
Yeah, and it worked. It created this sense of us versus them,
Right.
which is such a powerful motivator.
Yeah.
And it fueled decades of tension and conflict.
This is heavy stuff.
Yeah.
It makes me realize how easily we can be swayed by powerful narratives, even on like a global scale.
And that's why understanding these tactics is so crucial.
Yeah.
It's not about becoming cynical,
Right.
but it's about developing a critical lens.
Mm-hmm.
We need to question the narratives that we're being fed and look for the underlying motivations.
Okay, so we've talked about like the negative side of this, but can these techniques be used for good? Like on a global level too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Think about campaigns to combat climate change
Okay.
or advocate for human rights. I
Hmm.
mean, they use the same principles of messaging and narrative
Right.
to mobilize people around a shared cause.
Mm.
It's about inspiring collective action for a better world.
So it's not the tools themselves that are good or bad,
No.
but how they're used.
Exactly. Think of a surgeon's scalpel, right?
Okay.
It can save a life or it can cause harm, depending on the intent of the person wielding it.
That's a great analogy.
It's the same with these tools of influence.
It really makes me think we need to be careful about who we allow to hold that scalpel, metaphorically speaking.
I agree. But the good news is that awareness is the first step towards responsible use.
Okay.
So the more we understand these techniques,
Right.
the better equipped we are to spot manipulation and push back against it.
So let's bring this back down to a personal level for a second. I mean, we talked about like global politics,
Right.
but how does this all apply to our everyday interactions?
Well, whether you're negotiating a raise, persuading a friend, or even just trying to get your kids to eat their vegetables,
Uh-huh.
these principles of motivation and persuasion are constantly at play.
Wait, are you saying I'm manipulating my kids to eat broccoli?
Well,
I thought I was just being a good parent.
hopefully you're using positive reinforcement,
Right.
but you are trying to influence their behavior,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, true.
Maybe you offer them a reward
Right.
for finishing their plate, or tell them a story about how strong broccoli will make them.
Okay, yeah. When you put it that way, I guess parenting does involve a little bit of psychology.
Absolutely it does.
Yeah.
And the more aware you are of these dynamics, the more effectively you can communicate and build relationships,
Yeah.
both personally and professionally. But there's one more key element that we need to discuss,
Okay.
and that's the role of our own values and motivations in all of this.
You know, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From supermarket shelves to global politics. And it's making me realize that these tactics of manipulation and motivation are just, I mean, they're woven into the very fabric of our lives.
Yeah, they really are. And before the break, we touched upon a really crucial element, and that is understanding your own values and motivations.
Right.
This self-awareness is key to navigating this complex landscape.
Okay, I'm all ears. Why is understanding ourselves so important in the context of manipulation?
Well, think of it this way. When you know what truly matters to you,
Okay.
what drives your decisions and actions,
Mm-hmm.
you're less likely to be swayed by tactics that try to exploit those values.
Okay.
It's like having an internal compass
Right.
that guides you through a storm of influence.
So it's like a built-in defense mechanism.
You could say that. Yeah,
Okay. The more I know myself, the harder it is to manipulate me.
exactly.
Yeah.
When you're firmly rooted in your own principles, those emotional appeals or narratives that don't align with your core beliefs will have less power over you. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
It simply won't work.
Okay, I get the concept. But how do I apply this in real life? Can you give me like a concrete example?
Okay, imagine you're someone who deeply values financial security.
Okay.
A manipulative marketer might try to exploit that by creating a sense of urgency or fear, pushing you to make a rash financial decision out of worry.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like those limited time offer deals that
Exactly.
make you feel like you'll miss out if you don't act now.
Exactly. But if you're aware of your own values, you can take a step back, analyze the situation rationally. Is this truly a good investment? Does it align with my long-term financial goals? Or am I being driven by fear and scarcity tactics?
So it's about like pausing, checking in with myself, making sure my actions are guided by my values rather than somebody else's agenda.
Precisely. And this skill of self-awareness, it takes practice.
Mhm.
The more we reflect on our values and motivations, the better we become at recognizing when they're being targeted,
Right.
and the more empowered we are to make conscious decisions.
I'm starting to see how all of this connects. It's like we're learning to decode the secret language of persuasion.
That's a great way to put it. But here's the thing. Understanding your motivations isn't just about defense.
Okay.
It's also about becoming a more authentic and effective communicator yourself.
Wait, are you saying knowing myself better can make me more persuasive?
Absolutely. When you're clear about your own values and goals, you can communicate them with conviction and clarity. It's about moving away from manipulation and towards genuine connection.
Okay, so instead of trying to trick people into doing what I want,
Right?
I can focus on building genuine rapport
Yeah,
and finding that common ground.
exactly. It's about aligning your goals with theirs and framing your arguments in a way that resonates with their motivations.
Mm-hmm.
This creates a win-win situation where everyone feels heard and respected.
This is a powerful shift in perspective. It's not about using psychology to get ahead. It's about using self-awareness to build genuine connections.
And that's the beauty of understanding these concepts.
Yeah.
We can move from being passive recipients of influence to active participants in shaping our own lives and the world around us.
Wow, this deep dive has been truly eye-opening. I feel like I have a whole new set of tools to navigate the world more effectively and ethically.
And that's ultimately what we hope you take away from this. Awareness is the first step. And from there, you can choose to use this knowledge for good, both in your own life and in your interactions with others.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave our listeners with one final question to ponder. How will you use this newfound understanding of manipulation and motivation to make a positive impact on the world?
Think about it. Explore those possibilities. And let's continue this conversation together. Until next time, stay curious.